Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So by the time you see this, I'm going to be on spring break. I don't know why I look rather fishermanly today. I don't know, I think it's the beanie. Regardless, it's me, your favorite fisherman apparently. Since I'm on spring break, I decided to talk about something super lighthearted. Incest. So anyway, this case is truly terrifying and alarming to me because as much as, you know, when you're aware that there's all this fucked up shit going on and you're not exactly ignorant to it in the sense of, you know, it's out there, but for a while you're like in this cloud of maybe like your own problems, or in my case, my own mental illnesses, and you're just kind of like, oh, this thing is out there. That's how I feel about incest. I had very pleasantly forgot about it as a concept, but here we are. So I'm gonna start off with a TikTok that gives you a lot of information, and I'll be linking the TikTok down below as well, but then I have things to add.
These sisters had a competition to see who could sleep with their dad first. This is Samantha Kirshner, and in 2018 she met her father. She was 17 at the time and always wanted her father in her life. She even met her half-sister and formed a close relationship with her. By September of 2018, Samantha and her half-sister were battling for attention from her dad in the most unexpected ways. That's when they decided to have a competition to see who could sleep with their father first. On September 10th, Samantha slept with her father for the first time, and in the following month, they ended up getting married. Samantha's mom was clueless about the marriage, and she ended up notifying the police that Samantha's father had inappropriately touched her. Samantha ended up admitting to police that her and her father had a sexual relationship, but they did not believe that they were actually related to each other. Police then asked Samantha on why she would even do this, with the possibility of this actually being her father, and she stated it was because she had a jealous competition with her half-sister. DNA tests later confirmed that that was actually her biological father. Police then arrested Samantha and her father, Travis Fieldgrove. In 2019, Travis was sentenced to 2 years in prison after pleading no contest in incest charges. Travis stated his actions embarrassed him and he deeply regrets sleeping with his daughter. His lawyer stated that he had a brain injury and was not a high-functioning person. In June of 2019, Samantha got a 9 months probation and served a 22-day sentence.
Okay, so I understood everything until we got to the sleeping with their dad competition, because honestly, as sad as it is, you know, like you'd want sisters to get along, you'd want there to not be competition, it does make sense that you might feel like you're getting less attention, or you might actually be getting less attention in this situation. And initially, that was where my focus was, how difficult it must be to have a quote-unquote new family member appear out of nowhere and try to integrate, as much as it is to be the new family member, right? All very complicated. I had not factored in what was going to happen. I genuinely am aghast. The sole concept that two people in the same household are off their rocker enough to compete for their father's attention in that way, in the kind of sexual gratification trophy dad. Feels gross even saying that, but it really does feel like, now I obviously am not there, I don't know, but I would surmise that some of it, much like men who marry way younger women, a lot of the time use them as trophies. In this case, I think it's more complicated because it is a competition, so there is kind of the trophy of like, haha, I'm better than you because he slept with me first. But it's also the question of, I think for one daughter to fit in, to like be loved by a parent who wasn't there, and for the other one to show that she's still alpha, basically. Does that make sense? I'm not trying to reason away what they did, to be clear. I just need to understand to a degree. I was gonna say so I can sleep at night, but I think understanding might help me not sleep at night. So at this point, we all lose. So I started looking into this more to see if there were other things we should be aware of outside of this TikTok. So one thing I also wanted to clarify is, in looking at this, I found one sole article that didn't seem to be a reputable source. It's not like a journal or a newspaper. It just seemed to be more bloggy than that. So I'm not going to cite it, but there was one source that claimed that Kirshner did jail time. That is not accurate, and we're going to talk about that. She avoided incest charges and was sentenced to 9 months of probation for a different charge. So it says Samantha Kirshner, 21, was sentenced to 9 months of probation after entering a no contest plea to a misdemeanor charge of false reporting, a reduction of the initial incest charge. So no prison time for her. So I looked further and I found one article from the Mirror saying that she was in jail for 22 days. I don't know how much I trust the Mirror, so let us just put it this way. If she did prison time, it was less than a month. Like we already heard in the TikTok, they say that she had a sexual relationship, her father, 39-year-old Travis Fieldgrove, beginning in September. So one of the creepy things for me is that they did have sex once she was an adult, legally everywhere, because I know different states have different rules, but they met when she was 17, or like they re-met, I guess, for the first time when she was 17. That is not something I'm completely ignoring. Now, yes, 17 is close to 18, is close to being a full adult, though we can go on the whole thing of like your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25, blah, blah. I will say the 17 factor is something that also stays in my head along with the incest. Just saying, you guys can let me know. I know that's not the main focus here, but I will say that already made me raise my eyebrows a little bit. Anyway, interestingly, not surprisingly, the father, Fieldgrove, initially denied to authorities that Kirshner was his daughter, claiming the fact that he is not listed on her birth certificate constitutes proof. But a DNA test administered by authorities revealed a high probability, specifically 99.999%, that she is indeed his daughter. So I also think that this is kind of ridiculous to deny that someone's your daughter. It would be one thing to say that you don't know or you have no reason to believe someone's your daughter. I feel like that's more believable, right? Because if someone says, oh, this person's my daughter, unless you're particular, you're probably not going to run a DNA test on someone you're marrying, right? So you could be that unfortunate in some parallel universe, I guess. But to say, oh yeah, I'm not on her birth certificate, so definitely can't be her dad, it's like, did you just have that ready to go? Because that makes you sound suspicious as hell. Like, people give themselves away, truly. But anyway, I mean, I'm glad they do, but it's, wow. The father and daughter married on October 1st, and police alleged that they did so after they caught wind of a police investigation into their illicit relationship. VT.com reports, citing a police statement on the matter. Fieldgrove ultimately pleaded no contest to criminal attempted incest, and a judge sentenced him to 2 years in prison. Fieldgrove must also submit to 1 year of supervised release, and he is to have no contact with his daughter. I think the real tragedy here is that we have a case that turned perverse, granted, but at the very beginning it was a case of a girl basically looking for her dad, right? And I think a lot of that is abandonment issues, and I'm not saying this with any type of shade whatsoever, because if you've been following me for long enough, you know that my dad basically pieced out when I was 6 months old. Just decided to not really be there at all after the first 7 years of my life, just completely disappeared. Completely. To the point that the authorities were looking for it. Anyway, so I understand what it is like to look for your parent, because I did reconnect to him. Then I cut him out. Funny how the turntables, but I understand that, and I think that that's the real tragedy here, is that there was someone wanting to rekindle that familial bond, and it turned into something so fucked up and probably traumatizing on both ends. And I think that that's really the tragedy, that this could have been something that helped both of them grow, both of them get some kind of closure, maybe have a healthy father-daughter relationship, and none of that happened. Does that make sense? I see the potential that was just, I don't want to say thrown away, because maybe both of these people just weren't compatible as like parent and child, clearly. So I'm going to stop. So his attorney, Jeff Loeffler, whatever, said in court that his client is very embarrassed by his actions and wished it never happened. Okay, so sure, we're gonna pretend we believe that, but it's also like, this isn't just, this isn't that you made a quote unquote mistake and decided to hook up with your own daughter one night, which is already unimaginable. But pretending that that's a quote unquote small mistake in lapse of judgment, pretending. The decision to get married, to go to a physical location and also hide the fact that you're parent and child, and then say vows, say I do, you wish that never happened, that could have not happened. It was in your control, and it's not just like a momentary lapse of judgment like it could be to have physical whatever with someone. Like I said, in this case, I don't get any of it. I don't empathize with any of it. You can't convince me regardless, but it's like, it would be more believable if you said, oh, in the heat of the moment something happened, which is the reality we're dealing with here, as opposed to, yes, we made the conscious and rational, quote unquote, in their minds, decision to go to a courthouse, do the paperwork, say I do and all that shit. How are you going to convince me that that's just like, oh, a silly mistake? Like, you went to an official office. Like, hello. Last of all, there is also a very brief mention where the lawyer says that Fieldgrove, the dad, had sustained a brain injury and certainly is not a high-functioning guy, which I guess could be true, but it's also like, why was this not immediately introduced? Why are there no, as far as we know, tests being ran? Certainly not a high-functioning guy, because to me, that sounds like a cop-out. It sounds convenient, specifically if you're not even going to show any proof of that. What, you know, like, oh yeah, he's not high-functioning. Like, are we supposed to take you at your word? This is all just a shit show. And honestly, I feel like if he weren't high functioning, wouldn't there be some record of something somewhere with his jobs or with anything else that would indicate that that in fact was the case? Why would it only come up now 40 years into his life? I don't know what the official paperwork is, if there is any, so I don't want to make any assumptions, but I will say it's very hard to believe, and it seems like very convenient timing to find out that he's effectively not high functioning. And especially if you don't even have like a number or a test, where do you draw the line of, oh yeah, so this just happened and he's not high functioning, so it's excused? It's like, well, I feel like that's also belittling a lot of people who aren't necessarily high functioning, because I think there are degrees, like with everything, so there's still responsibility as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.